Well, hello internet! Just a quick introduction to my new channel here on YouTube. So here we go. I'm Rheic-Arts, seeing as I know some people struggle with the pronunciation. It's not that clear on screen now I think about it. I'm a wholly traditional artist, just trying to get myself further out there into the world, into YouTube and social media, and just trying to build that kind of community that I think all artists need. I think artists need a great community where they can meet like-minded people and get comments and constructive criticism, you know, on what they need to do, what they need to do better. It's a very lonely task sometimes, just drawing and kind of just sitting there and not having anyone to talk to about it. So yeah, internet, the way to go. Because I'm self-taught, it's kind of like a constant process, and I've got no real peers because, you know, the rest of my family can't draw. My friends aren't really that keen on it either, so hopefully this will go really well. I'm pleased to meet you all. So onward talking about this video, this is hopefully going to be the logo for my channel and my eventual art business when I get around to doing prints and events and all that kind of business, which I'm really looking forward to. It just takes a lot of background organisation to get there, so slogging through that, but this will be it. This is what I like to do. I can't really do anything digitally apart from like really basic editing, you know, crop, you know, it took me forever to use the crop tool and darkening and lightening, etc. So the thing I'm using on screen right now is Vintage Photo Distress Ink by Tim Holtz. I'm using it with like a facial wipe or a baby wipe, something like that. Because it's got moisture already in it, I really like the effect it's got, which just carries the ink that little bit further. And when it starts to dry out, it creates the most lovely texture. I really can't describe how much I just love this texture. It looks a bit like old parchment, gives it a bit of a steampunky feel, which I'm super into. You'll see when I upload some more videos. That's the theme I really like to do. So it's adding a little bit more. It was actually quite hard because I didn't have any masking fluid or masking film not to get it on the logo itself. You can see I went over the top a bit at the edge, but that doesn't really matter as much because I know I was going to paint over it anyway. So I'm just using the wipe straight from the press of the pad. At the moment, getting the edges a bit darker, getting that kind of I don't know what you call it, like a vintage photo effect where you kind of just, it darkens at the edges and it zooms in to a focal point in the centre. And you can see right now I'm still using the distress ink, but what I've done is I've got like a piece of cling film off screen, and just pressed the ink pad on it a few times and got like a spray bottle and got some water. Just mixed it in a bit with the brush and it's really nice. Just a same colour, so it still fits in with the rest of the picture, but it just gets a lovely even tone of it. I've just done a bit more in there, get it to darken up. So as I say, this will be my logo. So generally I want to design like something that would instantly scream out, this is like a visual recognition, this is what I like to do, this is how you'll recognise me with my style. So because style, I think, is a mixture of what you like to draw and how you draw it. So obviously you just think of what you like to do. That's the easiest one to do at first. So for me, I like to draw parchment and oldish looking things. I like kind of kooky letters, you know, kooky lettering, and I did get into calligraphy at one point, but props to calligraphers, it is super hard. I'm still learning. So for the minute I just freehand my letters, you know, I don't worry that much about how even they are. It's just the general feeling of the strokes I think is more important. That gives the strength of the stroke, like when you just throw it down, that's what gives it its emotion. If you try and do it too slow, it becomes stilted. Okay, moving on from the distress ink now and into using black calligraphy ink. And you can see right here, I love this ink. It's completely opaque. You don't need to relayer it or anything. You can use it just straight from the bottle, like I'm using it. And like I say, that solid border. Solid border is really what I like. So you have to just kind of go over and make sure, because obviously you can't do a proper shape first time around and you're like, oh, why is it looking even? It looks uneven? Yes, because I've not gone as close to the edge as I have for the others. So it just takes some time. I wasn't bothered about getting a completely smooth edge. I'm, to be honest, not a fan of smooth edges. They lack a bit of personality, in my opinion. So yeah, and it kind of, the rougher edges kind of fit with the texture of the distress ink in the background. So yeah, just quick rough edge kind of keeps the whole theme going on there. And you'll see in a minute when I start lining. I did it with pens a lot before, Pitt pens, which I'll use later on for the letters, but when I start lining, I really prefer to use a brush. You can see here. Oh yeah, just before I get into that, I really like ink washes. Now, I'm not that great at doing smooth stuff yet, like I say, self-taught, still learning, but I thought the black edge was just a bit too harsh compared to the background, so I've just kind of gone for a little bit of a smoky effect on the outside, using just a bit of water and a smidgen of ink just to soften it a bit around the edges. I find this is actually a really good shading technique as well. Just, like I say, not bothered about smooth, just want the general feeling down. So going what I was saying about inking and outlining earlier. Like, yeah, you see just here, I used to do it with pens a lot of the time, and while it was great for control, and I was a massive control freak with my art for a long time, it gets you a bit scared to go over it over and over again in case you lose it. And to be honest, I find, you know, darker and thicker and heavier is better. Like, I'm all for like a lighter kind of fluffier kind of art, but it lacks a certain like impact, and I'm blaming the fact I was raised on 2000 AD comics and they were all black and white. I'm blaming, you know, that as an influence growing up, but good solid lines create a much better impact, and the easiest way to do that and get some good variety in those lines is to use a brush. So it's quite a recent development for me. I've been very scared to use the brush up until now, but I can see it's definitely worth the effort just here. It's always better just to go over it just again and get a little more texture, make it look a little more ragged. Like I say, smooth is boring, you want a bit of rough and tough and character to it. And I think it turned out really well, to be honest. I'm really, really proud of this logo and how it went out. This is the first successful actual film I managed for this channel. I've done a few before, but, you know, beginners learning to niche, you know, files get lost in cyberspace, you know, film the back of my head for ages, love it when that happens. And this is just like the first real success. I've got my method down now, I know what I'm doing, and the trick is to just stop caring as much. I think if you fiddle with it and look at it and doubt yourself for ages, you'll never get anywhere. You just need to just dive in and start. You see here, I didn't keep to the pencil lines over the words of the logo itself. I just slashed the pen in, didn't keep quite to the lines, but it kept the energy, which is important, I was talking about earlier. Like, the energy of the lines was important, and how fast they were and how loose. It shows a certain confidence, even if you're not feeling that kind of confidence. It adds just a kind of brashness to the lines that I really, really wanted for my channel. I mean, there's nothing worse than just shaking the line when you go over, like, shaky, scratch, scratch, go over it. And while it looks great if you, like, master that kind of stuff, it doesn't look good on a professional level, in my personal opinion. I know some artists do really well with that kind of style, but in my own opinion, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. So, oh, I forgot about that. Going over back into my style kind of thing, again, blaming 2000 AD in that. Again, I tend to go for the darker side of art. I follow loads of YouTubers who paint flowers and pretty girls and nice dresses and gorgeous landscapes, and I love it. But when I sit down to draw myself, that's not what comes to mind. I'm very much a darker-minded person. So I'm into skulls and skeletons and black steam and just things that not a lot of people seem to do anymore. Again, blaming 2000 AD and a lot of dark comics raised on, thanks Dad. But yeah, because I draw that a lot, I knew I wanted just a little skull in there, and a lot of cross-hatching and a lot of solid black, just to showcase how I like to do things. Okay, a bit of a warning when using distress ink, by the way. It does tend to, if you use it with water, it does tend to dry a tiny bit patchy and the colours tend to separate. So I've not had it just here, but I have had it where I've done large washes with the stuff that the ink will start to separate, and the different pigments, a bit of yellow here and a bit of like a greyish brown start to show through. It's fine in small doses, but just be wary of it. Okay, I'm just going over my lines again a bit here, just darkening them up even further. Like I say, darker is better. Just makes your lines look more, I don't know, just a bit more harsh and a bit more confident. Like it's not afraid to be on the page, you know, and it creates a really nice focal point, especially for centre signs and all that kind of business. Obviously fade things out towards the edges because black has a tendency to draw the immediate eye. Yeah, and just a little bit of ink wash again for shading. Just want to add a bit more weight to it and a tiny bit more realism. I'm trying to get my art to become a bit more realistic, even though it's quite stylised at the moment. Just little things like anatomy and shadows, all these kind of things just affect, you know, how much weight your art has, how much realism it has. And I find that adding a tad more realism just makes that a bit more grungy and definitely what I want to go for. There. Yeah, this video's being very rambly. I'd be prepared for more rambles and stuff with the other videos. I have got a script, but you know, I think it's easier to listen to if you're not just reading off the paper. You just need to ad-lib just a tiny bit. Makes your videos a bit more interesting to listen to, you know? Just rubbing off the pencil marks just there. I'm actually really lucky with the black ink and the tone. The pencil doesn't show through that easily, even though I had very light pencils in there anyway. I actually drew this on the train, I think, so yeah, pencils were definitely light because I was juddering all over the place. Okay, right now I've got an acrylic pen, which I got very recently and I've absolutely fallen in love with. I was trying to recreate, you know, the dirty lenses and dirty film you get with old film reels and photos and that kind of business. I love that effect. I love it so much. So this is just putting little specks of dirt on it. It makes it a bit more whimsical as well. Like a bit more, I don't know how to describe it, ethereal or frozen in time. And I really like that effect. Got to put it not just over the border and over the sepia, but also over the logo itself, just to keep the vintage effect going. And I kind of went over it a little bit again, just adding highlights and business. That's a big turning point for any artist. You've got shadows, mid-tone and highlight, and I previously worked just in black and white, so it was just shadows and everything else. But no, I'm absolutely loving this pen. It's not completely opaque, but you know, that just means you have to build it up a little bit more, a bit like watercolour and ink in that respect, and I absolutely love it. I do think I overworked it a tiny bit, but I think the overall effect is one I just adore. I really like that. I really, really like this. Okay, video is starting to wrap up now, so I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you all subscribe to my channel, give us a like or a subscribe, or tell your friends. And hopefully I shall see you all soon. Thank you for watching, and bye!